All right, let me give you a tour of exactly what you are seeing. So this is called the user interface, and it is basically divided into 4 main areas. You've got the audio and video area. Below that is the participants area. Below that is the chats area. And off to the right, you have the content area. Within the content area, you have a full set of whiteboard tools. So let's go ahead and take a look at those whiteboard tools in just a second. Before we do that, I want to talk to you a little bit about these areas. So earlier we had somebody say, hey, you know what, I was in a room earlier and I moved my chat window, now I can't find it. So I want to let you know that this interface is completely customizable. So to move things around, all you have to do is click and hold down on the title bar of each of these areas. So don't be clicking on my picture. You've got to go over to your interface over there and click on these areas. And then you can just drag and drop them where you want them to go. You can do the very same thing by clicking on the Options menu and selecting Detach Panel. So if you use dual monitors, you can actually drag some of these nuggets, these separate windows, to a whole completely different window. Okay, so you can essentially organize your user interface the way that you want it to look. That's right, Leanne says it's great when you have 2 screens and you can make the windows bigger. Yeah, sometimes people say, Sherry, that video window I really can't see, and I'm going to show you what they mean by that in just a minute, because you can actually see, you can have 6 people come on the video camera at once, but they'll show up with little thumbnails down here, and some people say, I can't see those thumbnails. So you can actually drag this window to another monitor, which is super cool. The neat thing about that is that Blackboard Collaborate is super smart. You're going to hear me say that a lot. So it's going to remember where you like things. So if, like you said, if you needed to see all of your participants, so you needed a little more real estate, so to speak, you can move this area, this nugget, to another monitor so you can really stretch out this window and see everybody's name. So it does give you a lot of flexibility. So the next time you come back into the session, Blackboard Collaborate is so darn smart that it's going to remember where you left things, and it will still be there when you come back. Now, if some of these nuggets get lost, like if it's kind of hidden behind something else that you have open, you can always go to the View menu and select Restore Default Layout. So take a moment and reorganize some of these windows. Don't be scared, because you can always move it back to the default layout by going to the View menu. Now, the other thing about this, another way that you can customize things, is if you get really tired of seeing my picture over there, which I don't blame you, you can actually collapse that window. So just click on this little arrow and it will collapse that window, and you can do the same for all of that. Now, here's a use case scenario. What if you are teaching your class and you have a co-facilitator with you? Maybe you have 100 people in your session, and so your main job is to present, but you have a teaching assistant there with you to cover any kind of questions that come through. Well, maybe you don't want to read all of that because you know your co-teacher has your back and they're reading all that stuff for you. So you could actually close that window so that you will not be distracted. Same thing with a video camera. The reason I don't teach typically with my video camera on the whole time is because I talk a lot with my hands. Gosh, if I kept my video window on, you'd be seeing me do this the whole time. How distracting is that? So if I did teach with my video camera on, you could certainly shut me down just by clicking on this little arrow, and it would minimize that window. Okay, so lots of different ways to change your user interface. Now, you also are free to ask questions at any time during the session. You can do that by simply typing your question here in the chat area. Just make sure you hit enter so that I can see it. Pretty good about reading the chat, but hey, if I've missed your question, feel free to raise your hand. So I want everybody to go over to your user interface, find the participants window, you'll see your name there, and go ahead and raise your hand. So I need everybody to go ahead and find the hand raising tool and raise your hand. You'll notice that there is a number by your name. Okay, now later on when you become a moderator, which let's talk about roles in just a minute, but I plan on making you a moderator, which is what my role is. You'll hear an audible ding every time somebody raises their hand. So I just wanted to forewarn you that later on when you become a moderator like me, if somebody raises their hand, all of a sudden you're going to hear ding. I just wanted you to be prepared because that just means that somebody has raised their hand. Now you can lower your own hand by clicking on that same button again, okay? So you can go ahead and put your hand down if you've got a number by your name. But just to let you know, as your moderator, I can lower your hands too by going through my options menu. By the way, I want you all to take a look at your options menu as a participant because later on when I make you a moderator, your options will change drastically. Okay, so you're going to have a lot more options under there. One of the options that I have is the ability to lower everybody's hands. So I can do that very easily. All right. Let's see, are we going to go over giving permissions to students? I'm having trouble with this. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, Susan. Now, I just wanted to remind you, you guys are all participants right now, and I'm going to leave you as a participant for the first part of the session because I think it's important for you to know what your students will be able to do, what options they have. So make sure you're looking under the options menu. Later on, I'll be making you a or a moderator so that you can see what options you have as a moderator. Now, I want you to notice the main difference between the participants interface and the moderator interface. Let me show you that. So the moderator interface looks like this. It actually has this area up here that gives me some more tools to use. So you don't actually have this area. That's one of the main areas that are different between your user interface and my interface. The other thing that is different is this little bar right here. Now this little bar will come and go. This is actually going to give me a tally on how many check marks and how many red X's have been used. So go back over to your participants window, and to the right of the hand raising tool, I want you to mouse over that black check mark and go ahead and give me either a green check mark or a red X. I want to make sure everybody knows where that tool is. The reason I want you to know where that tool is that we will be using them a lot. So I'm going to be asking comprehension questions throughout today's session like, for instance, does everybody understand so far? Give me a green check mark. If you have a question, please give me a red X. But then next time, be warned, I might say, give me a red X if there are no questions, green check mark if you do have a question. See how tricky I am? The reason that I do that is to model for you how you should be using these tools as well. These polling tools not only give you a lot of good data, it lets you know who is understanding and who may need a little remediation, but it also lets you know if you've just had a student sign in for participation points that really they're sitting 5 feet away playing a video game on a whole different system, okay, or on their TV. So this gives you the ability to know exactly who is actively engaged or who just signed in for the participation points, okay, if you guys do that. So if somebody consistently does not give you answers, you know you've got somebody online shopping or updating their Facebook status or playing a video game, and they're not really paying attention to you. So that's a good tool to use to know who is doing what in your session. All right, to the left of the hand-raising tool, you have an away button. So everybody go ahead and click that button. It's not going to kick you out of the session. It's just going to give everybody a visual indicator that you're currently not available. So if you do need to take a pit stop, answer a phone call, or just get up and walk around, then make sure that you set your status as away. But then make sure you click on that button again to bring yourself back. Okay. And then finally you have this fun little emoticon guy, and I might say something like, great job, Leanne. Let's everybody give Leanne a big round of virtual applause. You will find virtual applause under that happy face. There you go, Leanne. Look at all that wonderful applause for you. So feel free to use those emoticons at any time. In fact, sometimes I use those emoticons to get a response from you. So I might say something like, give me a happy face if you understand so far, or the blue confused guy if you have a question. So I use those buttons. The name of the game is to actively engage your audience at all times. I read some place that if you don't keep somebody actively engaged every 4 minutes, then you've lost them. They're going to go off and multitask, and I don't want to lose you to Facebook, okay? So I'm going to keep you guys very busy. So what I was going to tell you is the main differences between a moderator interface is here. Also here, I get a little tally bar that allows me to clear the polling responses, so which will allow me to ask a new question. So if I have a lot of polling responses, I can just click this little clear button and clear them so that I can ask another question. It also gives me a quick visual about the results. The other thing is you'll notice that on my interface I have my own private tab, so that if I had another moderator in this class, where is Raheem, I usually promote him to a moderator as well, because he is my buddy and my sidekick. He helps me out a lot in these sessions answering LearnNowBC questions. So if you have any LearnNowBC questions, I may have to look to him to help me out. So basically now Raheem and I are both moderators, so if we wanted to switch to the moderator tab, we could actually have a chat behind your back. We have our own private way to chat. So those are the main differences between the moderator interface and the participants interface. Now let me step back a minute. You guys on your interface, you have this whole complete set of whiteboard tools. So does a moderator. We have the same toolbar.